dye with some mulberries. To dye with mulberries, you are going to need about 3 cups of mulberries. You're going to have a stock pot of water, and you want to have a half a cup of canning salt and a tablespoon each of cream of tartar and alum. You'll also need your measuring spoons and a potato masher for mashing the berries later on. And you'll also want some fabric that is a natural fiber. This one is made out of cotton. You could do cotton and linen. You could use silk. You could use wool. You could use hemp. So anything that has a natural base to it. So the first thing we're going to do is add in the salt, the alum, and the cream of tartar into our water. And then we'll add the fabric in. And we're going to simmer that for about an hour. Using these ingredients helps to pre-mordant the fabric so that the fabric can hold the dye better and it becomes more long-lasting. So I've added a half a cup of salt, and now I am adding in a tablespoon of alum, and I'll add in a tablespoon of cream of tartar. Go ahead and stir to mix that up really well. And then we'll add our shirt into the dye pot. Now once you have this submerged completely, go ahead and make sure the whole fabric gets nice and wet and it stays down below the water line. You want to get the alum and the cream of tartar and the salt to basically be cooked into that fabric a little bit. So we're going to go ahead and turn that on for an hour. We're going to simmer it. So I'm going to turn it on, let it come to a boil, and then I'll turn it down and simmer it for about an hour. So once everything has been simmering for about an hour, you want to take it off and kind of let it cool down a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and dump it into this other smaller stock pot because I want to use the bigger pot. And then I'm going to rinse this out, and then I'm going to put my mulberries in it, mash them up, and add more water. So now I have fresh water in here, and I'm going to add in the mulberries. I have about 3 cups of mulberries in there. And I'm going to use a potato masher to kind of help mash them up a little bit. That'll help to release the dye color. And the water starts to turn purple. I like to leave the berries in there because that will help it to release their colors as they cook more. So I've got this still on heating up. I'm going to turn it all the way back up to the max temperature now so that it will start to come to a boil, but then I'll turn it down to a simmer. Okay, so I'm going to take my cloth, and I want it to cool off a little bit before I add it in there. So be careful. It's best to just let it sit there and cool off on its own. You just want to kind of gently wring out the excess water once it cools off. And if you don't have time to do all this in one day, you could pre-mordant your fabric in one day and then just hang it on the line to dry. And then the next day, you can add it to your dye pot and dye it. I'm going to go ahead and unbutton it all the way. I should have done that before I pre-morded it, but it should be fine. That way all the dye can get in under where the buttons go. And you want to add it into your dye bath. You can see it's already got a really pretty pale purple just by dipping it in there. Submerge it all the way in. And I'm going to let this simmer in here for another hour. And then you can, if you want it darker, you can let it simmer overnight as well. And look at that pretty color that's already coming out of it. So you just want to let that simmer and stir it occasionally to get everything mixed around. And just be mindful that if you don't stir it, you're going to have some spots that are darker than others. So once it's been an hour simmering, you can turn off the heat. You can either take it out immediately or you can let it sit until it cools off. And sometimes I like to let it sit overnight just to absorb a little bit more of the dye. And then in the morning I will wring it out and I will hang it up to dry and I will let it dry completely. And then I'll take it down and hand rinse it. I won't wash it in a washing machine. For a while I want the color to set, so I will hand rinse it and then rehang it to dry, and I usually let it sit for a couple of weeks before I will ever wash it in the washing machine. So that's how you make mulberry dye. Here's the finished results after it's been hung out to dry. It is still a little damp, so the sleeves are still darker. So this is a great example of the color it looked when it was wet, and this is the color once it's dry. It's this really pretty lavender purple color. So after a week or so, I did rinse these out with cold water, and as you can see, they have changed from the more reddish purple to a more blue purple. So this is the original shirt that I was showing you that I had dyed, and these are a couple others that I also dyed after that. And in the initial dye bath, I heated up the dye bath with the fabric in it and let it simmer for about an hour or so, and then let it sit overnight. I don't know if that had something to do with it because it does look a little more faded. These two I actually soaked in the cold dye bath afterwards and let them sit for about 8 or so hours, and then just pulled them out and then wrung them out and let them dry. So as you can see, they did retain almost like the color of a chicory flower. But that's the fun of natural dyes. You never know what colors you're going to end up with, and even different materials can produce different results. So this is a linen, that's cotton, and I believe that one is also a cotton. So if you're going to try dyeing with your mulberry, have fun and show me your results when you're finished.